Hey there, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jamie, and we're your co-hosts for Two Clicks in a Pod.
Join us as we explore our missed times, stories, and memories due to divorce and a 1,000-mile separation.
I can't wait. You ready to get into it, Kev?
I am. Hey, Jamie, you think they're going to swear?
Oh, yeah. Consider yourselves warned.
And we are live. Here we go.
Live and in living color. Hi, Daddy-O.
Hey, youngster, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
Yep.
I'm pretty good. I just wanted to share with you. I was gonna send you the video, and then I thought, no, I'll share it. That way others can hear as well.
Mm-hmm.
Our episode that dropped last week where we talked about faith and which was a topic that you had asked to talk about with me. And in that conversation, you had asked me, have you feel like you've seen any acts of faith recently, or, just things that you feel like, as we've been now referring to, any God speak moments. And I talked about Meredith and I don't know if I said my friend Meredith in the episode, but if I didn't, that's who I was referring to. But my friend Meredith, and, over this last year, how I have seen acts of what I believe acts of God, acts of faith, miracles of life in her life as she went through a difficult time. And I was sitting at work last Tuesday when the episode went live, and I got a text from Julie, and she said, "Girl, you've got me in tears. I just talking about Meredith and our girl, and basically, like, you're just, to me, like, loved hearing you talk about our friend and how much, that relationship means to you and what you've seen." And it was really cool. And then Julie went on Polo and just said, "Meredith, if you haven't listened to the episode yet, it's a good one. You got to listen to it." She's like, I'll leave it. I'll leave it there. I'm not going to give it away, but I'll leave it there. So then Meredith came back the next morning. She's been getting up early and going for walks. So she listened to it, and she was poloing after. And she's just sent like a really nice message about how much she loved hearing you and I have that conversation, and just how cool she thought that was, that we are able to talk like we do. And obviously she wanted me to relay that she appreciated us sharing and honoring her faith, and how special that made her feel. But it was really cool. So she sent me, I captured the whole polo, and I said, I'm going to send this to Dad, because there was more to that I'll share with you. But it was really cool to hear her feedback from the episode from her eyes. And I think she said something like, it was really cool, Dad, how she phrased it. She just said, I think you all know, meaning talking about the girls, that to me, I lead a life where I think faith is simple. Just like, you get what you give, and not downplaying the importance of it, but just that it's like, it's a basic thing for her, So it was really cool and really nice to hear her feedback, and just a reminder of, she said it's not always easy, not always easy to have it, but how important that is. And I just wanted to share that with you, and for everybody listening, if anyone else had those feelings after listening to that episode, share them with us. But it was really cool to hear my friends talk about that with us, so to speak.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I was a little, well, I love what Meredith just said, that it's simple. And I went and listened to this thing probably at least two and a half times. I was really kind of a little disappointed in some of my, wavering and trying to find the right words to appease an audience and not be myself. After listening it for the first time, I really had a bad day. I came at the end of getting kind of listened half of it on one day on a walk, half of it the second day. And just being honest, I came back to Suzanne. I told her, I just, I've really just needed to talk about this. I don't feel real good about the outcome of that podcast. And I hadn't listened to the last 5 minutes of it, which, just being honest, kind of broke my heart, because I felt finally my message and my aspiration of what I was trying to say was said. And I was just so guarded. I was just really trying not to just open up and be so honest about how I really do feel. And that got in the way. And I felt very guilty about it after the fact, even prior to what's gone on in the world since.
Yeah.
And not to get
When
into
you
that.
say, but when you say you felt guilty, do you feel like you just missed an opportunity to share with me? Like you just felt like you weren't being as direct and honest as you wish you had been?
Not so much with you, because you and I have talked about those things, in a more, it goes back, and I know we don't have all the time in the world today, but I just really thought about this after listening to that and going through the solo performances of what you had to say on your own and what I came back and said on my own, and how transparent and how open and how just, off the cuff, how honest, that feedback is feedback, and we've been very honest in that. I just wasn't very honest in that. I felt I was covering up something that just needed to be, totally tear the skin off, to, peel it back. And for whatever reason, I just felt I misguided my hopes and my wants for that session. And towards and in the very end, when it finally concluded, after me moping around for it for a couple of days, I said, well, I wish I'd have gotten through the whole podcast in the first session. And I just, honestly, I just got through it to where I said, this is not good. I wasn't happy. It was not happy. It was just very frustrating for me that I do believe, and I'm going to go back to what Meredith just said. Faith for me is very simple. She said it, and I totally believe that. All you have to do is say, I believe. And yeah, there needs to be some core belief behind why you believe, but I just tried to weasel around way too much, trying to feel like I was talking to an audience of anybody and everybody, and just not, and afraid that I was going to step on people's toes when I was out there to just profess, that. And so fast forward to today, that kind of shows you that there's no there. Maybe that was respectful. Maybe it was respectful. There's been a lot of respect issues going on with the death of Mr. Charlie Kirk, but and he was very blunt in his approach. So I don't know. I just wanted to relate to that to you. But her saying it's very simple. I feel kind of the same thing. It's very simple. You either believe or you don't believe, and we've all gone through strugglings in believing. Everybody does that. But when it becomes that important to know that it's important to you to have a belief in something of higher degree, a God, and the Jesus Christ who walked this earth. There is science and history and discovery about that. An archaeological dig just here in the last month uncovering the holy pool in Jerusalem where he actually healed the man. And what I love about these stories, and I know that is again what brings these stories to life for me, is watching the Chosen series, and that it documents that. And then of course reading the devotional, the Chosen devotionals refresh the actual stories. And I didn't know this, but Thomas Jefferson actually wrote a version of the Bible. I'd heard this years ago, and then it was refreshed to me today in something that I read that took out all the miracles. It was a Bible, it was the New Testament without miracles, or a Bible in total without miracles. Just trying to
focus on fact-based life of
story.
Jesus.
Yep, the facts. And So anyway, that was interesting. But yeah, I did want to just come back on today and let you know that I just felt a little strange, a little off. And again, just, yeah, it just kind of bothered me that I wasn't my true self is what I'm trying to say.
Well,
felt like I was an
if I
imposter.
well, let me just give you some feedback. I will say I never felt that your words were not genuine. You did not, as someone who knows you very, very well, I didn't think you seemed like an imposter. I will agree, and that I think you were walking a line of trying to be respectful and be very middle of the road. Let's use words that aren't offensive. And I don't think that's bad. I don't love that you were not happy, not because I care about what anyone else thinks or how they perceive I genuinely don't, quite frankly, but I don't ever want you to spend time with me selfishly where you feel like you weren't yourself. So I guess you take from that what you want, and we can talk about it again. There's no limit here
Yeah,
on
and
what we
I
talk
think
about.
that's fair. It wasn't. No, it wasn't that I wasn't being truthful. You're exactly right. I was just trying way too hard to just stay not on top of it. Not to be 35 years and just broadcast broadcast my opinions and go that way. That wasn't my hope, and I didn't do that. So I'm fine with that. But I think in a lot of the discussion that you and I had, I could hear in your response, or hear in your in your responses, and in kind of the way the conversation went, that
Mm-hmm.
that some of what you took away was not my point here. It wasn't my point to worry about anybody being baptized. It wasn't my point. There's so many different takes on that. There's so many different religions that profess one thing versus the other. The point I need to say, that I wanted to say, is that it is a given in the New Testament that God put his son down here on this earth so that we could experience what perfect really was, because we could never get there. And he brought him down here to show, and I don't like that word perfect, but it was God's mission to put him here so that we all knew that there was something new, and that he provided an ability for us to follow him in order to get a different speaker to say. The Old Testament everybody was talking to the big boy, in the Old Testament, and Moses and this and that and this and that, and everybody in the prophets. But this was the true candle bearing kind of ceremony to say, follow me and you will get where you want to go. And that to me is pretty incredible. That yes, to get there as a Christian, you believe in Christ, and that's not to say that you can't be a bad person, or it's not that you need to be a perfect person. You just need to be who you are. You're human, but better yet, be a believer in Christ, to know that that's what the plan of salvation and meeting up with God is all about, as a believer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the facts. And I am by no means an authority to get into a regimented conversation about that, or people pushing back on it. That's not my point either. And I didn't want, or don't want, to do that as well. But I love Meredith's takeaway that her faith is simple, complex, but simple. And I think that says it pretty well for a lot of us. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It is difficult at times, but I just love
I
hearing
may
the
have led that a
stories. I
little.
love refreshing the stories, and better yet, it kind of makes my hair on my arm stand up, that it's just, in watching The Chosen and watching these stories and seeing them acted out, and just knowing that, he was a man. He does it. He portrays it so well. Jonathan does such a great job in that. But anyway, it just brings what we've studied, or what we've read, or what we know, to true light, to where you can actually have a little fun with what what the actual drama or the series itself brings forward in the humanistic characteristics of all the individuals. So
yeah. Well, Dad, let me just close this on this. I'm sorry you were disappointed, and I can tell it did bother you. And the good news is, in 4 days, I can give you a big hug and tell you I love you.
Yeah, and again, well, thank you, and I don't want to dwell on it. I could just tell I was off. I just was not being myself, and I will appreciate that. I'll take you up on that hug, but I just wanted to be honest about it. I just felt like I wasn't myself, and sometimes I'm not, but not usually on a podcast. So,
anyway. I will say, I started with Meredith, and we'll end with Meredith when she says, "I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna hug your neck. I'm gonna squeeze the shit out of your neck, Dad."
You know who used to always say that too?
Who?
Tori Gerasi.
Oh.
Yep. God. I want to just hug your neck.
I'll hug your neck.
Bless
Another
her
good
heart.
human.
Yep. I haven't checked that. Been in a while.
Well, let's segue because I think what I'm so excited to talk about tonight, and I do think that was a good segue, a good lead in, because I think this person, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this person we're going to spend some time talking about tonight too, you and this person, is a big part of your recommit. You tell me if you like this word, would it be a word or a phrase? Your recommitment to your faith, being Suzanne, and we're leading into the weekend for the big wedding.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are. We are days away. It's days away. Pretty. We were talking the other day. It seemed like when we first did this, back in December, it seemed like it was just a couple months away, which it was more than, it's going to be 9 months away, but it always has felt like it's just days away. And now the days are days. So
days are days.
Days are days.
Well, it did go fast, but in a great way. I was thinking, as we're getting ready, I'm already starting the laundry, Dad. I'm getting the Edwards clan in motion to get us out the door Thursday night. And I was going back and reflecting back, and I need you to fill some gaps here, because what I remember being at the lake house years ago and sitting on the back porch with you, and we were talking and catching up, and you had said, well, I met a woman, and I really like this one. Kind of how you said it, like, I really like this woman. And I was like, all right. And you had been dating, I feel like I would use the word cautiously dating. Like, you were very much, you would tell me, like, yeah, I went on this date. Wasn't feeling it. She was very much I feel like one time, very aggressive. Like, well, and you were like, and I was just so proud. So I was like, Dad, you're reading all the signs. I feel like you're reading the signs, and you're doing this good. You're doing it right. But this conversation was different, and I thought it'd be fun if you could just share, how you met Suzanne, and knowing that you two were not in the same geographic area.
Yeah.
What about her led you to say, all right, I'll do this long distance thing. I'll make this whole dating thing a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, that's a good question. I will go back and say you're exactly right with Suzanne as far as just, recommitting to faith, because she is a believer, and that makes a big difference with regards to where you are in a relationship. And not to get into that story, but your mom was a believer, and then in the second marriage, Shelley was, you thought she was a believer. It turned out she wasn't a believer. That made it difficult. So that it is, when you have someone that's in it with you, and you can talk about these things, and somebody to do a morning devotional with, and really just connect, nothing of intensity other than just honoring God and through a passage of a reading. So, but you're right. There was something that came out loud and clear And I was dating, as you say, off and on, and probably more on at that point in time when I first reached out to her, because I started going out with girls out of Rockwall and in Dallas, and on a freaking dating website, which that was a lot of work and a lot of trying to keep up and traveling, from the lake into Dallas or vice versa or this and that. And I mean, it was that. But anyway, we were on a dating app, and I don't know if you remember, but my cousin Donna and I had made a trip. We'd gone to Carrie Gilbo's. I forget. It was kind of in the wintertime. It was Mizzou watching party over the weekend, and I drove the bus in there, and she was there, and hadn't seen her in forever, and we connected. And I said, "Well, what do you think about going to I said, what do you think about going to a concert? You open to going to a concert?" I said, I can travel. I mean, let's make it for a weekend. And we kind of searched around, and there was Miranda Lambert was coming into the Evansville, at the Ford arena. And so I bought 2 tickets in Indiana. And so it was a road trip to go pick her up in Kentucky. And after that, months later, and we just spent the weekend going to the concert and getting into the casino and hanging out in the parking lot and going to see The Gentleman, the Matthew McConaughey movie, on a rainy Saturday afternoon. And she'd made a statement when we were first visiting at Carrie's, and she was asking who I was dating and what was going on and this and that and everything. And I said, well, I just, and she told me, she said, "Kevin, your picker's broke and you've got to find."
Oh, wait. All right. So pause. Yeah. So you're talking to your cousin Donna at Gilbo's.
At Gilbo's.
All right. You're mixing it. And then Gilbo's you go on this trip, though, with Suzanne. But that was after the Gilbo trip.
Correct. And she brought it up. She kind of brought it up in the catch up, and we talked about it on the bus trip. But she just said, "Your picker's broke. You need to find a good woman." And she made a kind of off the wall comment. She said, "You need to find a Kentucky woman." And I said, "Well, you might have a thought there." So
why? But why Kentucky? Is she from Kentucky?
Well, she's from Kentucky. She lives in Paducah, Kentucky. She grew up, and that's Uncle Hank's the Hart girls. So
okay. It does. Sorry, real quick sidebar. It does remind me of when Shane and Haley got married, and Mom said, I think it was Aunt Vera, and Aunt Vera said, "What do you think about Shane marrying a Dexter girl?"
Well, yeah,
like a Missouri girl, and Mom was like, "I mean, yeah."
Well, that's a good point. And from the listener standpoint, they don't know anything about Missouri or why that's but it is a connection, because my mom was raised in Missouri and born in Parma, Missouri, which is outside of Dexter. And so Missouri has always been in our backyard, and cousins galore. And we've made many, many summer trips and things like that.
But
being close to cousins.
I do love the sentiment, though, that it mattered then, and being the Kentucky thing mattered.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well,
keep going. All right.
And again, the Hart girls were always one of my favorite cousins, because they were pretty much all girls except for Ronnie, the oldest son, and they were all gorgeous. So it was they were just pretty girls, and just really related well to them, even through at 16 years old or whatever. Just the shyness of all of this, from my defense, and just not being very natural around girls of that age. But they were always interested in whatever it was that I was doing. And Donna made a point of that, to say, we always just thought you were the smartest kid on the block. And I said, "Well, why is that?" And she goes, "Because you knew what a murmur diphthong was." And I said, I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "I couldn't even tell you what a murmur diphthong is right now, but it's something."
I don't know what it is. What is it?
Oh, you're going to have to look it up. It's an English term, or it's a term for some repetition of vowels and consonants that go together. I don't really even know. So But
I
she
wonder
just
if my
started
mom
laughing
knows.
about that. And she said, well, we have never, I said, it's just always been hard to get in front of the Hart clan, which is mom's maiden name, and the girls.
Right.
It's just been difficult to run everybody down. We did have a cousins reunion in Nashville years ago, but I said,
Yes.
let's go do something. Let's just go out. Let's just hang out. Carrie gets to hang out with you all the time. I'm a little bit jealous that you and I just don't get to hang out. So we made those plans to go to that show, and we did. And
Okay. All right. I'm
we
there. I was
that's
confused. All
that.
right. Got it.
No, I'm sorry. So we had a good time, and she just said, maybe you should look into seeing what you can do since you're on a dating site. Just look through the state of Kentucky and see if you see any see any hits
So
in
you had
Kentucky.
not actually connected with Suzanne yet? Like you literally
No.
broadened the search to Kentucky?
Yeah, no, I
Shut
said, well,
up.
I can date anybody anywhere. I mean, I
Why
can go,
not?
I don't have to hang
Yeah.
out in Mount Vernon
Dad,
or Dallas. So I
Dad,
said, well, let me
the
try.
the grass is green
I
and it
know.
is green and it's green anywhere.
That's right. So I did.
I never
I
Wow,
did.
I didn't know that.
I started searching for girls in Kentucky, and
I love it. Holy
I
Hannah. Is that
I
a song?
discovered
Dad,
what.
we need to write a song. Girl, I need a girl from Kentucky.
Yep.
All right, keep going.
So I start perusing around and kind of looking at Paducah because that's where Donna was from, and look at here, looking there, and just I didn't even know where to even look. Looked at Knoxville, looked at Nashville, and up pops a picture of Suzanne, and I said, well, she's attractive, and I looked to see where she was from, and I don't know if it said exactly where it was from. It probably said Knoxville. But
Mhm.
anyway, I gave her a heart, which kind of shows
Is
that
that
you're
what you did?
interested.
That was like
Yeah,
okay,
you
okay.
give them a heart, and that shows you're
I
interested. And
just so you know, to fill the gap, I never did an I think you know this, but I never did an online dating app. So I don't know
mm-hmm.
how any of this works. So keep going.
Oh, baloney. Oh, baloney. Okay.
No, Dad, I never did. I
Okay.
never
Okay.
did.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can you can swipe right or swipe left. I've never been on
Le-
Tinder, but this just shows you're interested.
yeah.
Interested.
Okay, legit. I'm learning.
Yep.
Okay, so you hearted her, and that's like we could talk, or I'm open to talk.
Or it's like a wink.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
see if we can
I
establish.
can't wink.
What do you think? Can you wink back or can you heart back? Well, nothing ever happened. I don't know. That was probably June-ish or so before the summer, and in the meantime, I was dating a girl out of Rockwall or visiting with her a couple times, and here, there, and anywhere and everywhere it seemed like. But anyway, she finally, after about 2 months, I got a heart back from her.
Ooh.
I mean, it wasn't
Did
instantaneous, and
did you ever ask why she took 2 months? Did you ever ask?
well, yeah, she saw that I was in
Okay.
Texas and was not at local, not local. And
I love that. That's
but
very
she was in a
Suzanne.
small
Very
town.
reasonable. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, small town, and she would have to travel an hour to get to Knoxville or an hour to get to Lexington and some of her dates from what I've found out.
Mm.
And then I said, I just finally, she started coming back, and we were texting a little bit back and forth on the app, which is very hard and very cumbersome. I said, are you open for a FaceTime call? And she said, well, sure. So I think first we didn't do a FaceTime call. I think first I called her and we just kind of chatted and visited and learned that she was from Williamsburg, Kentucky. And me
You are
having grown
from?
up in Williamsburg, Virginia, I said, well,
Yeah.
there's a sign of this thing being anointed in heaven right there. So,
God speaks. God speaks.
yeah. So anyway, we just hit it off, and we had a good conversation and a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, and just she responded well, and I was very cut up, kind of being laughing mode and just joking with her and teasing her a little bit, and she appreciated that and took to it well, and um so anyway, we just started communicating back and forth, and then the second time we really got serious, and we had a FaceTime call, and
Mm.
it just got to the point where you did that for a few minutes, and you didn't want to keep people from doing things, but we just spent more and more time on the phone constantly, or I'd run to the marina and meet Bryce, and then I'd come back and I'd FaceTime her late at night, and she would respond back, and we just talked for hours and hours and hours. I mean, we talked forever. and just had a real good chemistry going back and forth. And I said, well, what do you think if I said I can, and I filled her in with what was going on and the house being finished up and, traveling down to Austin for work. She knew I was pretty mobile. I said, I can come to Kentucky. I said, it's no problem for me to get, on the road and get there or fly into there or do whatever necessary where we could go out. And she said, well, I would love to meet you, but I'm coming to Dallas. I don't want you coming to me. I want to come to Dallas. I've never been to Texas, and there's really not much to do here in Williamsburg, Kentucky. So I want to come to Dallas. And so we did. And she came out, and in first talking to her in kind of June, we were communicating through July, and by the end of July, first part of August, she was on a plane and headed out to Texas, and picked her up from the airport and just went to Nick and Sam's for dinner and hung out there.
You went big on the first one.
I went big, and she was impressed. So
well, of course.
I knew she was small town girl, and I was going to show her big town Dallas, So
not only did you get her a good steak, but you took her into like the prime of D town and all the social engagements and all of that, which that's big. For someone coming out of small town, that's a big change.
Yep. And she was very, very, very respectful, very funny. She has a big heart. You can tell that she's as true as it comes. She's not a falsetto of anything. And she's got that Kentucky accent, and just a joy to be around. And so we got through that and behaved ourselves and just kind of ran around town, but we drove out to the lake. We didn't stay in Dallas at all. We drove straight.
I was just going to ask you if you guys got like 2 hotel rooms or how that worked.
No, we drove straight out to the lake. By the time we got out there, it was, probably close to 10:30, 11, if not midnight. But we just, conversed all the way out in the car, got out to the lake, and stayed up for quite a while and just visiting and having a good time and sitting out back. And anyway, that was the first weekend. And when it came time to drop her back off at the airport, I knew where she was, because she just broke down and cried. She didn't want to go back. Didn't want to go back. And it was so funny. She felt so bad about that, that on the first meeting, she just, her heart and her feelings came through loud and clear. And I said, well, it's, I said, this won't be the last time we see each other. I promise. And that was that. And it went on, and I wasn't kind of putting all my eggs in one basket at that time. So I was, still kind of talking back and forth with, a couple other girls. But it got to the point where I just knew what I saw. And then I made a trip out to hers place in the bus in September. And by that time, I was pretty well convinced that she was the winner of the cast of the crowd.
The cast of
there. Cast of a few.
Yeah.
But I did a really, and not to get into all this, but she was just such a sweet, genuine, honest, all in type of person. And I was, with my history and my failures at the same, I got to a point at some time, just pushing back. And it's like I told her, I think I pushed hard just to see if I could upset her, or if I could piss her off, or if she was going to stay, or if she was wanting to leave. And I wasn't very fair in that time frame. But, and she got nervous, and she, I know she went home one time and told her friends, and they said, well, you need to leave that asshole alone. He's just, he's not worth your time. And it was always, me, I'm tough skinned, and I just wanted to make sure that there's a lot to lose here. I mean, when I say that, in time investment, and I want to just make sure that she's where she says she's at. So, and she was, and the bottom line, she was.
But in your defense, you had been through a lot. I mean, at
Mm-hmm.
that point, we were what, 15 years of just straight up. I mean, I use the word drama from my perspective because it was, but if I'm you, I would say pain. 15 years of pain. And so Dad, I get that where you were kind of like, I'm going to challenge this a little bit to see if this person is really in it for the right reasons, right? Not because of what you had to offer in I'm just going to be very direct and crass, but in money or, livelihood, but because of you. Is this person here for you or for the life you can give?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think one of them was there for the life you could give her rather than you and the life
Yeah.
y'all could create together.
Yeah.
And
And yeah,
so
you know
I
that for
I,
sure.
I just
Yeah.
I know I just want to say to you, I mean, I love Suzanne, so I don't want to know that you ever hurt Suzanne's feelings, but I can understand why you did that. So, I think that's all right. But
Well, yeah, and I think I felt again I wasn't really I wasn't really looking for a serious relationship. I was just trying to check things out and see, again, I had, as you know, I'd kind of just, stayed in my backyard area of Mount Vernon for a period of time. And to get outside of that was what was important for me to say. And
yeah,
Holly was a big instrument in all of that, of just pushing me to say, you go find somebody that meets and is where you're at, more of an
mm,
equal to where you're at, and
very true.
is in it for the right reasons, and drives your intelligence, and keeps you interested, and somebody that you can really just fall in love with who she is, and fall in love with what she can provide you in that in return. So
Yeah,
it was and I was so fearful of getting married anyway back then, to where I didn't even know if I would ever get married. And of course, that's the first thing that one of the first things that Suzanne, well, would you consider marriage? And how do you answer that question? Well, I wasn't going to just say no. I said, right now
yeah,
I'm not ready, but I'm not saying that down the road that I would put that away for not an option. But
yeah,
so that was a difficult path to walk as well. And regardless of all that, fast forwarding to this day, as everybody in my family knows, that she's the first woman that I have actually been with in a long period of time, ever, I think, for, like you say, 15 years, to where she got along with everybody. She was family based. She was very
yeah,
into the McClinic clan, um, and the kids and the grandkids, and wanted a relationship with everyone, and everyone flocked to her, like the school teacher that she is. I mean, she knew how to
yeah,
handle the kids, and was a craftsman at that. So,
yeah.
and nothing false, or nothing
No,
unintentional about it, other than to really want to establish love for a child, or for my child and children and grandchildren.
family. Yeah,
And that I think comes out loud and clear, just knowing, with what she's done for a living all this time, is that's exactly what she does, and that's exactly how she's had to relate as a teacher to elementary kids and younger kids, and
yeah,
from diapers on up, and has two boys of her own. And so it when it was all said and done, and I knew, and even other people gave her a hard time, of just trying to, have seen me around, and see me, who I was dating, and what my seriousness was in dating. They just, and it really hurt her feelings that somebody would say, well, Kevin's not for you. I mean, they would be kind of mean about it. And
mm,
just, it bothered her, and it was difficult. We went through some difficult times. Nothing that ever said, let's take a break and give it some time. That never happened, because she is a gem. She's just, she's not easy to, her heart is so big. She does get hurt feelings easy, but she's not mean. She's not taking it out on anybody. She's just a good person, and one
Yeah.
of the best, probably the best person to get along with anybody and everyone, and try to be truly intentional in caring, that I can say, so
Yeah. Well, I would agree with
that comes
all of
through loud
that.
and clear. Yeah, no
I would
doubt.
agree with all that. I think what was nice is for the first time in a very long time seeing you with a partner that, you just seemed happy. I saw the two of you laugh together, in good spirit, tease each other. I saw, it sounds so silly, but I saw you put weight on where I was like, dad looks good. Like most people don't think that when you add weight, but I'm like, dad looks happy, dad looks healthy. I would say those things to Chris, dad looks so much better. And it was a physical transformation as much as I think for you, probably an emotional transformation. And it was really nice to see that. And, you know, as when we finally got the opportunity to meet Suzanne, as I called her, I don't think I've ever shared this with you at the time. Age appropriate Suzanne is how I referred to her. Never
Yeah,
to you, never
yeah.
to Suzanne. But when I was like, well, I'm meeting dad's girlfriend. And they're like, all right, what do you think? And I was like, well, this one is age appropriate. So I would call her age appropriate Suzanne. And then I would say, and she's a school teacher. So like I was already adding points. But in all seriousness, it was when you guys came to visit here together and you guys came up here to media, it was so nice to see you smile. And it was like, given the previous 15 years, it wasn't awkward, it wasn't weird, it wasn't like you were having to accommodate, you were just being yourself. And it was so nice to see that, like, oh, dad's just being dad. And this person that I'm meeting is, I'm assuming this is who she really is. I didn't really care. I just was happy that you were there being you for the first time in a very long time
Yep.
with a companion. So
That is a
let's
great
fast forward a
point.
little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great
it
point
was
though.
as your daughter, it was very important to see that after what were some hard times. So, looking back, you and Suzanne were together for quite a while before you did make the decision to get married again. I guess I am kind of curious, just because we had talked years before and you had said, I don't think I'll ever get married again. And you, even at that time, you're like, I think I'm going to be with Suzanne. I think this is it, Jane, but I don't know that I'll get married. But I'll always take care of her. I see her in that way. I was like, all right, I get all that. So I'm just curious, what was it about life and love and experience that made you decide to make that commitment again? And that, what I believe is a very profound way.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Something I, you know, thought about, worried about. Um, Suzanne definitely wanted to get married. I think she'll tell you, and she says this rather often in the conversations that we've had just recently with people asking, that the marriage is coming. And when she gets upset, she in a challenging conversation, in kind of a true or a real conversation, a truthful conversation of just what on challenges that we've had, and trying to just relate that to her. And just as you say, that she's here for the right reasons. and she feels like she always gets challenged, that she's here for the wrong reasons, which definitely upsets her. And her comment and statement back to that is, that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I have loved you from day one. Now, let's put a little realistic tag on that. But in her heart, she knew that she had found a great guy, and as we know, got along impeccably well. It's not and she's a partner. She's a partner in anything and everything that we do. It isn't me to run each and every, and this is a silly example, but she's all in to help. She'll bring her suitcase to the front door. I don't have to go grab it and put it at the front door. Now, it may take her forever to get it at the front door, but at least it'll be there. So
at least she does it. I love that.
And she's very independent. She's been by her, she has been independent in her life. And, through two relationships, one that was 23 years, which was another kind of an interesting data point. Her second marriage, 23 years, as was mine. And, but she's a doer. She loves getting involved. She wants to make sure that we are doing things in a manner that makes me happy as well. And that's not anything that I demand or ask of her. I appreciate that she probably goes a little bit overboard about worrying about that, but she's just kind. She is the kindest person, and doesn't like conflict. I think somewhat that needs to be a little bit maybe, and when some of the things that I try to work on with her was that, I know we don't like conflict, but there are some hard conversations that sometimes need to be had. And it's not that I'm driving conflict. It's just it's a conversation that you and I need to agree on. And
it's like, if you remember what Daryl said to he said that I guess we would call his girlfriend, that she said, I would rather have 15 minutes of a hard conversation to give us 15 years of a good life together. It was something like that. And I think that's very true.
Yeah. And that's, and again, frustration or timing of that. I'm not the best at being patient all the time, or bringing things up maybe at an inappropriate time. But with Suzanne, it's again, there's just not a whole lot that gets in the way. I think it's more expectations for long term or future, or let's think about this or think about that. But it's just funny how today we were on the phone, and with a random call, we took a short trip yesterday, got in the bus just to kind of stretch its legs. It hadn't been in it in 2 months. And I said, we need to, it was running at top notch. We need to take it out and just get it out on the road and enjoy an afternoon, just driving the bus, just to make sure it likes to be moving. It doesn't like to be sitting. So let's do that. And we did. And of course, there was a couple minor challenges when it got pulled out, but we got in the bus yesterday and drove it 100 miles to the east to Buc-ee's in Crossville, Tennessee. Pulled in there with 500 other, or better yet, probably 15 other cars and buses in the parking lot, and went in there and got us some candies and some hot pecans and barbecue sandwich. They've got a new killer when it's the three meat sandwich. And then just came back and spent the day together. So, and just to break away from preparing for the wedding here next Saturday. But we just love doing those kinds of things. It's not, it doesn't, we don't, everybody knows that I go a lot harder than she goes. And she's just fine doing whatever it is that we like to do, which can be sitting here watching TV, or it can be out in the backyard with her working in her garden, or it can be helping out doing this or doing that, or getting on. I mean, she just loves to be, we love to be together. That's what sold me on it, is I wouldn't want to be anywhere without her. And
for you, that meant you I'm gonna push here a little bit, but
Yeah.
so what? All right, so I get that, but you're gonna get married.
Yeah.
And it
And
has
to
to be,
me,
and that's because so there's something to that, and I'm asking you what.
there's honor in that. There is commitment into
Okay.
that. And I think she,
Yes.
I could have been fine without that. I know that she would not be fine without that. So this is something that I'm being selfless to do. And not that it matters to me, but it is important for her. And then the more I thought about it, and once getting it planned and going through this, I want her to have my last name.
Mhm.
And she's wanting that, and she wants that last name. So
Yeah.
um and we both know that this is we're not in this just for a sidestep. And I said, if we get married, we're getting married for forever. And I know that's a statement that you always say, but this is one that just seems to be the fruit of the vine that I've been waiting on, and not to let
Yeah.
that go because I say, and I'm going to be stubborn, that I'm not going to get married because
Yeah.
I don't know how she would respond to that, but it's just something that I felt it's okay. You've got things taken care of. Financially, things are where they need to go. Everything's kind of settled out on that. It's defined. It's this, and I want her and I to have a good life. And
Mhm.
so, it's like I said, let's not you go back to school at the second semester. It's time. We need to just quit. We need to relax. You don't need to be worrying about making $30 an hour for 25 hours. Don't worry about that. We don't need that. So let's prepare for retirement. Let's prepare for a life together. And the big part of that is, as much as our family approves of us, I feel, as a couple, let's show them that we're good to go. And I have no problem getting married. And I would love to marry you. And
Yeah.
it just in thinking about it, and I felt it was more me planting a stake in the ground and saying no versus where my emotions were in saying yes. And as you know, of your dad, once I'm in, I'm all in. And
Mhm.
to, purchase the rings and get all giddy about, and me, I like the excitement of planning anything. That bothers me a little bit because that's a little bit short-sighted and short-winded. But to put the rings in the biggest in a box that she would have never known was a ring, and better yet to scribe. I don't know if she's ever shown you that, but the jewelry box, and I had typed up a poem that I wrote and printed it out and labeled it and pasted it there on the inside cover of it. And you probably remember that from the
The
Christmas
call.
time
Yeah.
that she shared. But
Yeah.
those things, and it's kind of the same way with the wedding. I've put together some vows for us to. It's what I want to say, and what. Here's my thoughts of what I would like you in response to what I'm saying. Say if you want to change it, change it. So, I mean, we're just good together, and I don't
Yeah.
feel, she made the move to Texas. We've been together now for over 5 years. Come August, and right at 5 years, and she's just been a part of my life, and it's just no. It's like I told Brandon Holsey, who's the tech on the bus, and I talked to
Oh,
him
yeah.
today at
Tech
lunchtime.
Brandon yeah.
Brandon Tech, and he was wanting to know about the wedding and how it was going. And I said, well, it's kind of been a little bit of a rat race this week. Everybody that we thought had a plan has bailed on us on the plan. And I said, I can't even get a bartender hired. He said, well, I'll be out there. I can, I can sling, I can be a bar hop and sling some drinks. And,
Oh, boy.
and he said the same thing. He says, looking at you two guys, I'm so excited for you because anytime I've seen you guys together, you're just always happy. And, um, as long as that bus is running and it's not broke, you guys are both happy. So, and everybody says the same thing. And I think that's what I think, just the joy of, and as you know, this isn't my first rodeo, and that's a little embarrassing for me, very honestly, that here we go. Do it again. And I just know that this is the right one. And I don't
Well,
say that
Dad,
I don't say that disrespectfully to your mother. So
I know. Well, I will say this, and let me just get to where I want to share with you. I appreciate all of that. I do. I loved hearing those stories because we've never talked that much. But ultimately, as your child, I just want you to be happy. That's all I care about, and I know you're happy, and so that is what matters. That's what brings joy to me. And I love Suzanne. I think Suzanne is great. I think we got to get her a grandma name. That's the only thing she's lacking. Is I just can't keep calling her Suzanne. Like because we're family people, and I just need you to relay the message. She's got to come up with something because I can't keep calling her Suzanne. It just it just doesn't feel like family. So I challenge you, Suzanne. I know you listen to these episodes. You got to come up with a grandma name. So I can start calling you that. But
well,
we're
I'll let
excited
you.
to be there, and I'm happy for both of you.
I think you should bring that up after the vows are exchanged and a champagne toast. That
I can do it. I'm good at talking.
if you
I'm real
want to
good at
really,
talking.
piss her off though, just you need to just toast Susanna and she'll come unglued.
Oh God. Well, I called her
Or
Susan. Remember, she was
Susan,
so upset.
I kind of get tired of saying Suzanne. I'm the same way.
Well,
I
I will blame Aunt Leslie's, former, I know this was years ago, ex-girlfriend Susan, who is
yeah.
now long-term family friend Susan. So like when I said Susan, it's just because I'm so used to saying Susan in
Well,
terms of a
yeah,
person that's
yeah.
connected to the family. But
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah, Suzanne, you gotta come up with a name here. But I will tell you this, just because I gotta add some humor, and I hope you don't get offended, but Reese just slayed me the other day. It's, Reese is into watching Friends, and you know how much I loved Friends. When we
Yep.
were living together in the condo, you
Oh
would
yeah.
come home, and I would have Friends on the TV. And I'll never forget one night and I was just dying laughing. And one night you walked in and you just said, I'm just curious, how many times have you watched that episode? Because I've seen you watch it like 3 times. And I was like, oh, hell, I don't know. And he goes, and you were like, because you're laughing as hard as you were the last 3 times I saw you watch this episode. So anyway, so Reese loves watching Friends. And Reese said, Mom, Peepaw is like Ross Geller. Because Ross gets married.
Uh-huh. That's
She
funny.
said, Peepaw is like our Ross Geller. And I said, oh God, don't tell Peepaw that. But I had to tell you because it was funny. But
Yeah, that is
anyhow,
funny.
we're very excited and looking forward to the weekend, looking forward to seeing family, celebrating as family. I'm very much looking forward to finally meeting Suzanne's sons, who I've never met.
Yep.
I'm super stoked about that. I hope they're probably going to just be like, these people are batshit crazy. But that's all right. We tend to do that. We tend to bring the heat, and if you can't
Yeah,
stand it,
yeah.
they say get out the kitchen. But
That's right.
I'm looking
Though
forward to it,
I'm
Dad, very
sure, yeah,
much.
Matthew and Justin, I'm sure, and Emily, which is Justin's bride, she's a sweetie. Yeah, she's a sweetie. But I kind of just I was the whole just to cut down on Suzanne's name and something different. I'll get her thinking about that because I agree.
Yeah.
I call her Magic. But that really hasn't stuck. But I do call her Magic.
Ooh. All right.
That's
Well,
my
let's see what
nickname for her. Maybe
we
we
could
call her
call her like
Magi, Grandma
I was
Magi,
I was gonna
or
say
Grandma
Maggie.
Maggie,
Mag. Ooh, I like Maggie.
Mag. Yep.
Maggie. Maggie's too much like an actual name.
Yeah.
Maggie.
So
All right, let's work on that.
yeah.
I mean, we got Mimi. We got what do the McClinics call Donna? They call her Nona.
Nona. Mm-hmm.
Nona. We got a Mimi. We got a Nona. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
we're gonna come up with it. We're gonna work on that. But all in all, to say congratulations, best wishes, because when this comes out, it will have already happened. But I love you both. I'm very excited for the weekend. And the Edwards family is going to be coming in hot, as we usually do. But all that to say, in all sincerity, I love you. I'm so happy for you, Dad. Thank you for tuning in today. With so many podcasts out there, we are grateful you chose to spend your time with us.
And we'd love to hear from you. So send us your questions, comments, and feedback to info@twoclicksinapod.com, and we might feature your message in a future episode.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social and head over to our YouTube channel where you can watch the full episode live and in living color. You can find us at 2 Clicks in a Pod. That's 2, as in the number, clicks in a pod.
Well, James, until next time, love you.
Love you too, Daddy.